Hey everybody, I just wanted to record a quick video because tomorrow's election day here in 2022, and I was filling out my ballot this morning, and I'm really frustrated because last week I went into the judges section. There's 17 judges on the ballot this year, and I'm like, which ones believe the things that I believe, which ones try to follow the constitutions, which ones just say, oh, well, that's an old rag and what we think today is more important. Those are important things to know before you vote whether to retain or throw out a judge. And so I did a lot of looking into it. And what I found was I started researching James T. Blanche, and I went to his profile on the University of Utah page and was able to see a number of cases that he was either an attorney in or a judge in and read his opinions. And I was like, okay, this guy really seems to be, reading the law and not trying to read in his own beliefs into the law. He's just interpreting the law, which is great. So I voted yes on him, but it took me about an hour to read these different opinions and stuff. And I was like, I didn't make enough time for myself to read, what 17 judges have done. If it's going to take an hour per judge, that's just crazy. So today I started doing some Googling on Utah judge blocks or Utah judge grants, and I found a couple more things. I found that Diana M. Gibson was she was the judge who there was a protest that was getting organized back in 2020. It was protesting COVID restrictions, and it was an outdoor event. And the Small Business Bureau of Utah was involved, and they wanted to, really promote. So all these businesses had little booths, and people were going to come out, thousands of them, and listen to music and buy. And this judge, Diana M. Gibson, said no. She blocked it. She said that is against the law. If anyone goes there, they are subject to whatever the law enforcement wants to do to them, because that's not okay. And the First Amendment says that we have the right to gather and peacefully protest. And so she was saying, nope, this is an emergency. During emergencies, you can't have your constitutional rights. So I obviously voted no there. I found another one. It was Vernice S. Treese, who she was in a case back in 2021, so just a year ago. The Utah, let's see, the West Jordan Police Department, they shot and killed a guy in 2018, and they had an investigation because every time there's a shooting in Utah, the police department has an investigation about that. And so they investigated the officer and they said, okay, this was a justified shooting. And the Salt Lake Tribune, they weren't satisfied with that, and they wanted to know more about the officer, and they wanted to know his personnel records. And his commanding officers were like, no, that's not public information. That's for us to know what, are we going to give them raises or not? Are we going to give them bonuses? I don't know exactly what they do with that, but they said that is not public information. We've already given you what the public information is. You're just going to have to deal with it. And the Salt Lake Tribune sued the West Jordan Police Department, said, no, we want those records. It's paid for on the public dime, and that means we have a right to it. And it went to court. And what they ended up deciding was there was a case back in 1967 where there was someone suing the state of New Jersey under decently similar circumstances, and they ruled against the state of New Jersey and said that, yeah, if it's not deemed private information, then it's public and everyone can have it. And so they used that case to say that West Jordan had to release this person's personnel records. So in the next legislative session, the legislature got together and said that was really bad. That was out of line. It was not okay. It jeopardizes the health and safety of this officer and his family. And so they passed a new bill saying that that's not going to happen in the future. And Governor Cox signed it. So you know that this isn't a hard right issue, because Governor Cox is not a hard right guy. He's more centrist than I would like, by a long shot. So anyways, now that can't happen anymore. What the Salt Lake Tribune did to the West Jordan Police Department, and even looking at the case, you could tell kind of which side you would come down on, because what you had was West Jordan was backed up by Cottonwood Heights Police Department and the Wasatch County Police, I think. They all backed up West Jordan Police. And Salt Lake Tribune was backed up by all sorts of other news outlets. So it was like all the news media against this police department that had other police departments backing it up, so it wasn't just like a rogue police department or something. And the fact that the legislature all came and said, okay, we're not going to let that happen again in this state. It's all evidence, so I voted no on Vernice S. Treese. So basically, all this to say, I wish that there was a better. The Utah has this thing called the Judicial Performance Evaluation Commission, the JPEC. And they sit in on all these judges and rate them on a number of categories, and then they say, yes, we should retain, or no, we should not retain. And there's all these news articles out there saying Utah has it so easy. They know easily which judges to go for because we've got this awesome JPEC thing. And the problem with the JPEC thing is it does not tell you, does the judge support the Constitution or not? Does the judge support enforcing the law or not? And this is trouble because we don't want judges that are going to overturn what the legislature says. We don't want judges that are going to overturn the voice of the people unless it is strictly contrary to the Constitution or the existing law on the books. So, a little late for me this year to do anything about this. But next in 2 years, when we do this again, I'm going to try. And hopefully, if any of you remember me after this, hit me up. Make sure you start commenting on the video again or hitting me up on Facebook to say, hey, you said you were going to rate all these judges for Salt Lake County. Get on that. And I will. I will spend an hour per judge if I have to find out what to do about this. But hopefully I can talk to our elected officials here in Utah and say, hey, this JPEC is not working. Instead of having 13 unbiased people on here, why don't you give us a few biased parties? Like put 3 Democrats on there and 3 Republicans, and then give us 3 people who say that they are left of the Democrats and 3 people who say that they are right of the Republicans, and let us see, okay, well, this judge got 3 out of 3 on, the hard right, and 2 out of 3 from the regular Republicans, and 1 out of 3 from the Democrats, and none of the hard left people voted for this person at all. Or vice versa, and that will give us a good idea of what kind of judges do we actually want in our state, instead of this JPEC, because for crying out loud, the person on this thing who got the lowest rating was, let's see, what was his name? It was Faust, Robert P. Faust. There were 2 of the 13 on the commission who voted to not retain him. And I looked into Faust, and I read what these people said about him, which they never identified exactly who it was that opposed him. They just say that 11 said yes, and 3 said no, or 2 said no. And so I looked into it, and the comments on his evaluation were that he came into the courtroom already decided. He already knew what he was going to rule when he came in, and I'm like, okay, is that because you know that he's, really hard on keeping the Constitution, or is he really hard against the Constitution? What do you mean when you say that he had his mind made up? Because I know that if there's an obvious case, an obvious constitutional case, and he rules with the Constitution, if you're on the left, you're going to say, well, he already had his mind made up at the beginning of the thing. And maybe he did. And maybe that's a good thing. Okay? We don't need people in here who are like, well, am I going to follow the Constitution today or not? No, get rid of that. We don't want that. So yeah, I'm going to talk and see if I can get any of my representatives to gut this JPEC and change it into something that actually tells us. Because almost all of these judges were unanimously supported by the commission. And I don't know why. I mean, for crying out loud, I've got Diana M. Gibson, who said no to your First Amendment right to peacefully protest. And she was unanimously accepted by the commission. That means that the commission is hot garbage. That is not good. We can't do that. So, at any rate, I'm going to see if I can get that reworked. I got a question this morning from a family member who said, hey, for state treasurer, which one are you going for? I'm really not sure. And frankly, I have a lot of faith in the caucus system still, where my neighborhood, we pick a couple people to go to the county convention and to the state convention, and at those conventions, they listen to all these people, and they decide who to. So for, state treasurer, I'm going to go with whoever the Republicans nominated, because I really like the Republicans' platform here in the state of Utah. It's a great platform. The Democrat platform is not a good platform. Now, frankly, the Democrats didn't have a state treasurer, but I digress. For a lot of these other ones, if there's not a lot in the news about them, you probably just go with whichever party you are most closely affiliated with. But But yeah, if there are exceptions to that rule, I know that once upon a time I voted for a Democrat sheriff because I didn't believe in the Republican sheriff, and the Democrat was the incumbent and seemed to be doing a good job, seemed to be saving money for our county, so I went with him. And then an election cycle later, I realized that he was being supported and propped up by a lot of unions and other groups, and I was like, ugh, none of those groups believe any of the things that I believe, so I probably shouldn't support that sheriff anymore. So at any rate, I've gone on. I wanted to make this video mostly to talk about the judge situation, and hopefully I'll get a chance to talk to some of our elected officials, and by next election we can have a better commission to talk about these things. So let me know what you think. I'm going to post this on YouTube, obviously. I'll probably put it out on Facebook. Please comment. I'd love to see what people are thinking about this. I know it was a little long-winded, and I really appreciate you sticking with me. And yeah, we'll talk in the future, maybe, if this is popular.